Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Argos Anonymous. This is Argos here, coming at you to bring some lore into your life. This is the MetaZoo first graphic novel. Magic is real. Real magic is everywhere. So when these came out, the first print sold out instantly, basically. But the second print was for sale for about 4 days. They sold, I think it was like 5,000 of them, and then they were all gone, right? So if you didn't get your hand on one of those two things, you might be sitting here going, "Well, man, I'd love to read that lore, but I don't have the ability to do it." False. You can go to Amazon and get the digital copy for a couple bucks, and I highly recommend it. Here's what's up. I didn't have like low expectations going into this. I had like neutral, I don't know what to expect expectations, but when I read this, I was pleasantly surprised. It exceeded my expectations. The writing is good. The story is good. It's unique. It's original. It's fun. And I have become a person who is now really excited to see where the story goes from here. And I think this is a wonderful supplement to the MetaZoo card game. So if you are at all interested in MetaZoo, or even if you're not, and you're just watching it all take off, and you're watching all these other people be excited, and you're like, what's the big deal? Spend a couple bucks, buy the digital version, read the story. If you still don't like it, it's no waste. You wasted a couple bucks in an hour. That's like it's like if you drank a beer alone by yourself. Just pass the next lonely beer and get MetaZoo and see if you like it. And then if you do like it, boy, welcome to the party. That's gonna be fun. So what are we gonna do here today? Just talk up the comic? No, we are here to offer you the abridged version of this MetaZoo. I know there's already some online readings available for this, but I just want to, see. Let's see how fast we can rush through it. I think this will be fun. All right, so to kick things off, creepy bro McGee over here, otherwise known as Indrid Cold, shows up like in the middle of the night, obviously up to something, and he reconvenes with some critter. It makes reference to like little things that the keen observer might observe in the world around them, with something he has not seen in 1,000 years. My old friend, how long's it been? 1,000 years. Okay, so Mr. Creepy Pants starts like testing the air. He's talking about the veil, the veil, and he's checking it. He says it looks like it's thinner over here, so that's why he's here in the middle of the night. He's like tapping this veil, which, if you know about MetaZoo lore, is apparently this like kind of sort of magical barrier that separates the magical world from the real world, right? Or the world that we currently know. And then it introduces his creepy little friend. It starts describing him, and it becomes apparent that he's talking to, yes, Mothman. Anyway, with his conversation with Mothman, creepy old Indrid Cold here kind of reveals that he's got some like plans, and he wants Mothman. He's like, "Tell him what you see in the future, blah blah blah. I've got this great work planned." Ha ha. Evil laughter ensues. Anyway, then we cut scene over to the next. All right, so in the next scene of this, we basically zoom into a nice, peaceful, like little league baseball game early in the morning someday, and everything's totally fine until there's some massive explosion that could shatter windows from like up to 100 miles away, which is crazy. It makes it sound pretty crazy. And that is what was happening when the veil that was put into place over 1,000 years ago, like, finally shatters. Okay, so now we're going to introduce two of the main characters, Sam and Adam. These are guys that like to play baseball. They're kids at the moment. I think it said they're 8 years old. That's right. So these little dudes have always had kind of this special like intuition. They've had some special abilities that they were aware of, though they didn't quite understand it. But they had some kind of special intuition that they used to help them play baseball and do other stuff really awesome, a little bit better. Anyway, this cutscene back to this baseball game just describes like a really great, peaceful little league game. And then shit just goes wild. Like the veil shatters. Some people are morphing into cryptids. Monsters are showing up. There's an explosion. Some people are just engulfed in flame. We're talking like death and mayhem. This is where you realize, oh, this story actually has darkness to it, which is approximately the time when I was gripped. I was like, what? It gives a couple of descriptors of like all the crazy stuff that's happening, and then amidst the chaos, Sam and Adam like look up into the sky and they catch a glimpse of this creature that just gets described. It was a monster, black wings, piercing from this cold blackness, too cold or red eyes, blah blah blah. It's describing Mothman, just kind of surveying the total chaos of the veil shattering. All right, so in the next scene, we jump ahead 4 years. Sam and Adam are both a little bit older. They're 12 now, and the whole world has changed, right? You've got people talking about cryptids, you know, looking for stuff, trading stuff, priorities are different, the whole social structure is different. You've got casters learning how to cast spells, you've got spell books, you know, school has changed, everything's changed. Know your monsters, blah, 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 blah. And that's cool. It's cool hearing about that. You know, they go into a couple stories about kids like contracting beasties and bringing them out and making them do what they want. And some of the kids, even, it becomes clear that they're like not very nice people. Like the beasties are a little bit, you know, tortured per se, or like forced to do things they don't want to do. And then other people seem more like decent human beings that have respect for the beasties, want to take care of them. You've got people that are good at magic, people that kind of suck at magic, people that don't care. You know, they kind of go through a variety of scenarios showing you that there's different aptitude levels and different ways to utilize these new gifts. Okay, so jump ahead another 4 years. Sam is now 16 years old, and it's become apparent that growing up essentially as an orphan in the wake of all this destruction in his life has been kind of hard on Sam. Sam is getting kind of picked on by some older kids. He's got like an axe to grind against magic or something because he hasn't really been studying up and reaching his full potential, especially with casting spells, though he does seem to have an affinity for some of the cryptids or gear or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, he hasn't really developed it, but Adam, his buddy, has. And Adam is essentially turning into something of a prodigy. As far as casting is concerned, so that's great. Anyway, there's a couple of scenes where Sam's getting picked on, he's getting beat up. You know, Adam kind of figures it out, comes to the rescue, blah blah blah. He starts just introducing the characters and the struggles of this town and how the whole Shattering of the Veil has changed culture. I mean, like it was a devastating world reset, which is dark and fantastic. Anyway, here's a nice picture of Sam getting beat up by these like older kids, and they're all looking at them all in their faces and their spell books. They're like, I've got to read off the page. They're doing all their stuff, and then Adam's over here just basically deflecting and smoking them without even moving a finger. You know, clearly this is like a prodigy, and these are your typical, you know, seniors picking on the little guy. Anyway, it introduces a character named M. M is some sort of mysterious figure that showed up when the veil shattered. He's a very adept spellcaster himself, and he came in to take care of Adam and Sam. When they were growing up after, you know, their parents were eliminated. So there's also a chick named Rose. Rose is in this too. She's also a pretty good spellcaster, I think. She's kind of more following the track that Adam is on, you know, actually learning to do all this cool stuff. So we time lapse again another 2 years. Now everybody's 18 years old, and Adam and Rose, who were like studying and actually working to develop their skills, have gone off to a secondary school called Quimbley's, I think, which is kind of like the Hogwarts of MetaZoo, essentially. And but Sam has stayed behind because he was never really as into doing all that stuff. So since Sam is still behind and not in school, you know, he's not blind though, he's not stupid. So he's like wandering around town, kind of figuring out his life, right? And he's noticing some weird stuff is happening where like more and more spirits and cryptids and things are showing up in and around the town. Now, people have learned how to erect barriers to keep out some of the more hostile ones, right? But something's going on where there's more and more cryptids and spirits and stuff showing up in and around Point Pleasant, which is the town where he lives. And so he starts trying to get to the bottom of it. He's talking to M about it, who's being very vague and mysterious about it, whatever. They've got little gadgets and gizmos and things like that, and they're using them. And he just tries to get to the bottom of it. He starts to wander around trying to figure it out. And now a word from our sponsor. Enjoy delicious ice cold Minnesota, the official beverage of the Minnesota Iceman. So Sam is creeping around trying to figure this out, and he is onto something. So he is like going through this forest, you know, and the density of these spirits keeps increasing and increasing, and until he finds himself with hundreds of little spirits around him. They're all kind of converging on a single spot with a single purpose. And then it says, he's like out late at night, you know, and then it says he's like getting his camera out to document some of this, and then the night turns into day and some crazy stuff starts to happen. Boom, flash, Mothman appears, right? And Mothman locks gaze on Sam, and then stuff just goes nuts. Sam starts to kind of, boom, he loses it, right? As soon as he meets the gaze of Mothman, he starts to fall and fall and fall, and he's like hallucinating, he's out of it, he's losing it. And then as if from a dream, M appears, essentially starts to have a conversation with Sam, being like, I told you not to be out of your dark, this is dangerous, blah, blah, blah. And then you realize that M is actually sort of battling with Mothman while having this conversation with Sam, trying to save Sam and get Sam out of there. M like opens a portal, pushes Sam threw it, and then Mothman descends on M. It says he screamed in a voice that came through the forest like a dark wind, sounding tortured and anguished, both human, and not as Sam's own screams mixed with it. Sam's blood became like ice. I'm telling you, the writing is good, man. Like, I cannot do this justice with this abridged thing. If you can get your hand on this book, you should get it. The second one's out too. I haven't read it yet. I hope to get it today or tomorrow in the mail, but it's super good. Anyway, so that happens. M basically like saves Sam, and at his own sacrifice, the door closes. Boom, and we're done. Well, here we are. Touche, Mr. Waddell. Touche. So pick it up. That's quite the cliffhanger. I'm really excited to see where number 2 picks up and where it takes us and where the metaverse goes from here. Enjoy this if you can. This was super fun. Hopefully this is helpful to some of you who, aren't that into reading, haven't gotten it yet, or just have a 5-second attention span like me. Woo! That's all I got. Enjoy your week. Argos out.